Welcome into Shaping Reality for October 2024. Do you guys realize this is the last Shaping Reality before the election?
W
So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Welcome in, Penny Kelly.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, we do have a lot to talk about. I don't know if we'll get it all in, so if we skip around, people, um, kind of bear with us.
Yeah. The one thing I want to touch on first, well, obviously, this is the last Shaping Reality before the election. So
Uh,
in in my opinion, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff going on between now and the next time we meet. So there's that, and then I know that you are very interested in what's going on with the weather these days. Where would you
no.
like to start?
Oh my. Yeah, I was doing just a bit of research. Well, actually, it started by a few years ago watching the fires. The whole planet was on fire. Fires here all across Russia, all across Europe, fires all across South America. We were having fires here, and Norway, Sweden, just was like, oh my God, there's an arsonist loose on the planet. Some fool with a pack of matches and a grudge or whatever. And then the fires kind of calmed down just a little bit. And now we have floods. And so I started looking at where are the floods happening. And it started as a couple of days ago. I happened to see what do you call it? Like a flash, scrolling through stuff, and I see Saudi Arabia, and I think, what? Saudi Arabia is flooded out, people getting washed away. How can that be? They're in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And then I started looking, and oh my gosh, let me just read you the list of where
Okay.
we've had floods just since May of this year. So of course, we're going to start with North Carolina and
Yeah.
Georgia and Florida, because that's where Hurricane Helene, the big rain started. But yesterday there was a massive flood in Roswell, New Mexico. 2 people dead. Sheriffs washed away. All kinds of stuff happening in Roswell. There's been floods in Italy, floods in Paris, Saudi Arabia. The Sahara Desert is green, you know, Dubai, Oman, Central Europe, including, really terrible floods in Austria, the Czech Republic, Romania, Croatia, Germany, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia. And that was just September 23rd. So big floods there. I think like 24 people dead. And then there were floods earlier this year in the Grand Canyon. I think back in August, toward the end or second half of August, Connecticut, Sandy Hook, Connecticut got wiped out. Long Island, New York had floods. There were floods in June and July along the Mississippi River. And I was traveling in July, and there were routes that I had to change my route because of flooding. East Texas, there were big floods in May of 2024. Missouri, floods along the Missouri River in mid-July. So what is going on with all the flooding? And so we don't know how many people were killed in Hurricane Helene yet. I suspect it's probably going to end up being a couple thousand. Right now, the unofficial count is 500, and I don't pay attention to the official count because they lie. But what I realized as I was looking at the flooding and seeing more flooding coming through really strange, like king tides. This was in the look-see. I was looking at flooding along the east and the west coast of the U.S., and the west coast looked like it was just an earthquake. It was just an earthquake. Listen to me. So it was like a tsunami type thing. But the East Coast, I was looking at that and thinking, what in the heck is that? Where is that all that water coming from? And I get out there into the middle of the ocean, and it looks like there's a big dip in the water, and like somebody is is pressing down or blowing down on the water, and it's moving out because of that. And so I don't know what I was seeing. I just looked at it and thought, that doesn't look good, but it made a huge tide, both in Europe and in the US and in the Caribbean, and even down into a little bit into Africa and South America, but created a lot of havoc, a lot. And so looking at the flooding, I was thinking, okay, we've all heard that they're wanting to take people out, but I don't think flooding is going to do it. When you have 8 billion people, and I don't mean this to sound crude, but 2,000 dead is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
What
It's not a
is,
very efficient way if
no,
depopulation is your agenda.
that's right. So I was looking at, okay, what is the reason for the flooding, or what's the thinking behind it? And nothing came at first, but then there was this little flood, no pun intended, of inside information, and it was the effort to distract people by forcing them to deal with their own survival. That was one, and that wasn't even the main one. The secondary one was to get as much destruction going as possible in order to force people to have to rebuild everything, everything. And that then boosts the economy for the people that own all the big corporations. And that's what they're after. They're trying to, it's the same concept as the weather, not the weather, the war kind of effort. Let's get some wars going so that we can have, we can produce all of these weapons and guns and sell them everywhere. That's the same thing they're doing with the floods. It's war on the population. So those people have to buy new things, which boosts the big corporate, profit and keeps them afloat. So those were the two biggest things. And I was like, oh, wow, I had not thought of that before. It's like, oh, that is so evil, if I can say it that way.
Yeah. Well, and I think the cherry on top of that is that it's very demoralizing.
Oh, yeah,
And I look around and see so much that is intentional to demoralize people and confuse them and make them wanna give up and just, like,
right,
eh, just not even feel any joy in life anymore, and I think that, even if you didn't lose everything in the hurricane,
right.
you saw your neighbors lose everything, you've had damage, you just don't snap back from that. You're not as vibrant and vital for a long time after
I
something
know.
like that.
And when it keeps happening over and over, there's this feeling of being hunted, and it's a terrible feeling. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I think that that's from my perspective, I think that's exactly what's going on. I mean, we're literally being attacked by our governments worldwide.
I know, I know. It's really sad, and I think, um, I do see there's activity in the background to take out some of those naughty boys, but they're also still taking out people that are telling the truth about them, that have really deep inside information, and they just keep picking people off, and it is demoralizing, and there's this feeling of, how are we going to win this? And I think we don't know at this point. I think it could be a war of attrition. We outlast them, that kind of
Well, and the numbers are in our favor, and the minute
absolutely.
we're so close
Yes.
to having the majority of the people, or at least a larger percentage, a meaningful percentage
Yeah.
of people being aware of, "Wait a minute, this is there's something seriously wrong here." I had a girlfriend, well, if I had a woman I know who called me an anti-vaxxer a year ago and sent me an email this week about the dangers of appeal, and I thought, "All right,"
Oh.
I mean, when you think about it, that's a long way.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
coming a long way, and I bring that up because I think that,
Yep.
one thing about North Carolina, and I've been watching it because I'm in Florida,
Yeah.
it hit us too. We have a lot of devastation in Florida, but here's the thing. I found story after story after story of North Carolina just being dumped by the state and federal government. In
I
other
know.
words, just not given any support, where all the locals, those good old boys with the ATVs and the donkeys getting up there in the mountains helping people.
Right. Yep.
I have not seen one single story
Right.
like that in Florida. All it is, yeah, I mean, DeSantis is on it. And the reason I bring that up is not for DeSantis or not for a particular political party, but what I'm saying is when the government's on your side, it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard DeSantis talking before Milton came in, and he was going through, "We're ready for this, and we have that, and we've deployed this, and we've got blah, blah, blah." It was a long list: electricity, power, food, water. I was like, and he said, "We're used to this. We're ready for this kind of thing." That's not the case in North Carolina, and those.
And Florida sent resources to North Carolina after we were hit, and we have a whole coastline that's pretty much decimated,
I
but
know.
he had enough left over to send help.
Okay. I saw some photos of the coastline. I don't know if it was down near Punta Gorda, but in that area. And I'm looking at these metal frameworks on the ground and thinking, what are those? They almost look like big, gigantic ladders. And they were the frame for what used to be a mobile home. And there was no mobile home left at all. Nothing. Windows laying everywhere, doors, junk, roofs, sofas, chairs. Oh my gosh, it was a mess. And I thought, wow. And another picture um, up toward Tampa showed having to dig out. I thought of the snowstorm thing. I should probably say something of what I see about the snow, but this was sand that had washed in, and my God, it was probably 4 feet deep, 5 feet deep maybe, and they had dug out the road so that they could drive along the road, and the sand was like driving through this sand tunnel. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I didn't think
Mhm.
about sand.
Yeah,
That's a real problem.
yeah.
So,
So
mm,
let's establish that the military has had the technology to impact hurricanes for decades now,
oh, yeah, yeah,
to
absolutely.
move them, to create them, to dissipate them.
Mhm. Yeah, the weather, I mean, even if you don't look at all the patents that are owned by Bill Gates, I forget how many there are, but they go back to 1891 was the first weather control patent. And the rest, I mean, we can do anything with the weather, anything. There's patents out, and Bill Gates owns quite a few of them. I think he owns the majority of them. And so those are now being used against us, unfortunately. And there's not been anything cohesive that I know of to counter that. The government could counter that, but the government doesn't appear to be on our side. And so that's a problem. And as we move toward this election day, I think there's, anybody that tries to get around the ballot fixing and all that may find themselves with some sort of little weather event just in their own state. So there's some foolishness. The people with that weather technology are using it in a way that isn't looking natural in every case. And so they're giving away, they're coming out of hiding and emerging because they're so desperate. And that's just going to inform more people that, this is not natural. And I don't know if you saw the, I think his name is John Cole, started the Weather Channel many years ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the climate change. It's just a bunch of crap. And he was talking on CNN, and
And they didn't want to hear it.
no, that was so funny. I was like, oh wow. It takes somebody like that who's like, don't hand me any of that bull crap. I'm not listening to that. And and I remember talking with Dr. Levengood and him railing against the calls from the government. Don't you say a word about what you know about meteorology, because that was one of his favorite topics, was what's going on in the solar system, what's going on in the atmosphere around the earth. And the government just shut that down, said, you will never get another dime if you say anything about what you see and what you know. So there's quite a few scientists that are just trying to hold on until the cabal gets taken out. And
Yeah.
they are getting desperate.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you saw some snow. Was that in a vision, Penny, or how did that come about?
I was looking to see after, it was after Milton, so it's recent. But I was looking to see what, what's the next place that they're going to go after. And then this picture opened up. It was, they're going to work their way around the periphery of the US, water events on East and West Coast. Hang on. I'm bumping my table here. And those water events are for those places where they don't have snow. But up along the northern tier of the states, right along the border with Canada, man, I saw like a snow bomb and ice. And there were poles down and roads, people, houses almost buried, like 5 feet of snow. It just kept snowing. And the wind was outrageous, people without power in frigid weather, and that really concerned me. So it's like, okay, we have weather events happening, all around the periphery. And when I saw the flood in Roswell yesterday, I thought, oh, they're moving west with the floods. So it's like, oh my gosh, we really have to be prepared. And I think if we're not, or even if we are, um, that's not a guarantee.
Well, you brought up a good point that I've
Yeah.
been thinking about the last, well, since the hurricanes. And I'm in Florida, so I went through both of them. Helene was worse for me. Milton, I kind of slept through,
Oh, really?
surprisingly. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I can't stay up anymore. I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Whoops.
So, the story is, have food and water and medication and da 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 da.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't do those people in North Carolina any good when your house is floating down the river, all
No.
that food and all that water you prepped. So, and then I brought up the point earlier before we came on, you can homestead. You definitely can homestead and grow your own food and raise your own animals. All they have to do is fly one plane over and dump a bunch of poison on your property.
Yeah. Right.
and there you are. So we're kind of sitting ducks in a way for
Yeah.
a group of people who would prefer that we weren't on the planet in physical form.
Yeah. They're psychopaths.
They are psychopaths. And apparently,
Yeah.
those that are working to take out those that would like to see us leave are not quite there yet in their ability because, I think about these weather issues. Well, that technology is housed somewhere. It is housed somewhere.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is
Oh.
find where it's housed and dismantle it. Game
Ah,
over.
well, it's not in a convenient place. So, it's
Well, they got there.
well, that's true, but they've been having a chance to put their systems together since, 1947, 48. So that's 75 years or more. And then I think the spraying going on the chemtrails, that's coming out of the North Pole area, way up there. And then the weather control technology is coming out of the South Pole area, Antarctica. So it's not easy for us to get there and dismantle anything. There has to be, we need help. We need help. And, I actually, I was teaching this weekend and it took a little bit of time. Hang on a second here. I got a mouse in my pocket and it's starting to get in the way. Um, the, um, there was a little bit of a rant sort of thing going on by Alex Jones, and he was saying, "Man, you know, we can't do this. We we need we need God. We can." And I was thinking, you know what? It often comes down to that. You end up realizing that you can't do something by yourself. You need a something greater than yourself to be working for you, working, in harmony with you. And he did a whole program or a big chunk of a program on getting to the point of realizing that we need help. We need help from wherever we can get it. And I thought, yep, he's right. We do. We have some help. I think we're going to see that help in the skies over this next
Okay, so let me stop you there, Penny. When you say we have some help, can
yeah.
you elaborate on what that might mean?
That means ETs. We have help from people from elsewhere. So we've been hearing for I don't know how long about the fake alien invasion. What I was seeing was that fake alien invasion brings out the real ETs who say, "Stop that." And
Enough already. Yeah.
they take it on, and it gets to be pretty interesting. So I don't know where that they're gonna take that on. I don't know where the fake alien invasion is targeting. I keep seeing Texas for some reason. I don't know why, but it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere. And so if it's happening in Texas, I can't go out on the porch and look up at the sky and watch, all the excitement. But the people in Texas should be ready to keep an eye on the sky, maybe a little bit in the Northwest as well, and certainly in like where the Rocky Mountains are. What do you call that place where the government is dug in underground?
Oh, Cheyenne Mountain.
That's it. Yeah, around there or somewhere in that area. But those, if they're going to try and pull off a fake alien invasion, I just don't see that it's going to do any good in the mountains around Cheyenne. What are there 50 people that live in Wyoming? Maybe 2 grocery stores. They wipe them out. What? It's not going to have a big impact. But when you get around a big city like Dallas or Houston or Austin, then you're having an impact. and often the skies are clear enough to be able to see, for people to see. So, a few days ago when I was thinking about the fake alien invasion and thinking, our friends are going to take that on. They are going to say, okay, this goes above and beyond what these people have access to, and we're not going to allow that. So I was like wanting to put out a message: get your camera ready, you guys. Be ready. Keep your eye on the sky. Take photos, because I probably am not going to be there, and I'm going to miss it. And I would love to see it. So we'll see what happens. It's, I think, a period of time where quite a bit of stuff is just going to keep rolling. And I think the actual war has started already. And I think that we saw that in what FEMA was trying to do in North Carolina.
Okay, when you say war, are you talking about the war between the government and the people here in the
Yep,
US?
yep, exactly.
But I would say that that started a long time ago. We
It
just
did.
we just didn't catch on
Yeah,
until they decided to,
right.
implement a whole program, and you
Well,
couldn't go to
yeah,
work anymore or go into a restaurant or
I know. I know. That just, wow, don't get me going on that stupid shot. So the thing that we see coming out in the open, it was always a secret war. And people were like, oh, that's just conspiracy theory, until, something happened to them.
yeah.
But what we see happening in North Carolina is the government saying, no, don't help those people. They want to collect all the money. That money will never go to North Carolina. They want all the supplies to be given to them. They're stockpiling meat and supplies and you name it in their secret bunkers, because they're going to hunker down and make it through this whole collapse, banking collapse that is also coming. We certainly we certainly have our work cut out for us. So the just that was one of the things in my look-see, just looking at the meat recall. It's like, since when does 10 million pounds of meat go bad all at the same time? That is horsepucky. And I'm looking at that and thinking, why are they doing that? And what I saw were trucks carrying the meat away and putting it into deep state, like secret stockpile places. And I thought, well, you buggers, and they're going to have food, and we're going to be short on food. So, um, so that whole FEMA thing, that started coming out in the open, I think with maybe 6 months ago, with some of the spring tornadoes, and the FEMA teams. The word on the street, we'll see how accurate this is, because I don't have any exact verification of this, but they study the cities, and they track who's well-to-do, where are the well-to-do neighborhoods. And then when there's a disaster, they come in and they rob the well-to-do neighborhoods. They go right there and they rob everybody, chase them out of their house and tell them, you can't stay here, and then go in and rob. And that, I was like, they couldn't possibly be doing that. That is so not fair. Like, all is fair in love and war. And that has, for me, when I heard what was happening in North Carolina, it was like, okay, they are really a factor to be they're on the other side, and the war is becoming visible between the people and the government. And so I think we're going to see more of that as we go through the next 2 years, 3 years maybe. And it's really going to be sad. We're going to watch our government sort of crumble. So,
Yeah, well, it needs to crumble. The thing that bothers me about the FEMA situation is it's total gaslighting
yeah.
because FEMA will I heard a story and it's not verifiable because I saw it on social media. It was a gentleman who owned a warehouse
Oh,
and he lost his home, so he was living in his warehouse and then offered his warehouse to FEMA to do their work out of, and then they seized his warehouse,
oh, brother.
filled with all the supplies that people had been donating.
Oh,
They
wow.
seized his warehouse and had him and asked him to leave. So, the thing that's frustrating for common people, if you're not spending your time investigating these types of situations and you're just seeing,
Ooh,
a little clip or a little sound bite, you don't understand because FEMA will say, "Well, this is procedure. We have to do it a certain way. We have rules, we have processes." And that's just a way to steal everything or to not give you what you have coming. I mean, they literally sent a pallet of electric chainsaws to an area without power.
oh, okay. I mean,
So,
I mean, were they thinking? Where I mean,
see,
what could
I feel like that's another instance of demoralization. It
I would call it stupidity, but okay.
it's like as much as it's like, "Here we are, we're helping you," but you're not. You're not helping.
Right.
You're just gaslighting people that you're helping. So, I see it differently. I see every action has a dual purpose to thwart
You
help
know,
and to demoralize people.
yeah. I think, you mentioned this, duck and cover kind of attitude that, maybe we needed to have. And, I think before we got on the show when we were just talking, but I think that that is really the mindset that we have to have. If you're not wanting to get in the fray, get in the thick of it, and you're concerned about what might come to your town or your city, what are your alternatives then? Except to stay out of sight, lay low, time your excursions when you go out very carefully, be watching your back. I hate to say those kinds of things, but those are the kinds of things I saw with the robes way back in 1980, 81. People were sliding out in the middle of the night trying to go get something somewhere, get water from the river, bring it home and purify it. And it really was kind of a sad time. A lot of people were suffering. And I think, we can come together. We are going to come together, I think, in an amazing kind of way. And that is, I think, going to be what saves us, is that coming together. There will be people that are fighting for us, but we need to come together to back them up, not to get involved, but just to say, go and not be tattling on where are they, if we know where they are or what's happening. Very careful about who we tell what. And I want to go back to the thing about FEMA for just a moment. Um, the first I heard about FEMA was a big hurricane. I forget what the name of the hurricane was, down in Houston, Texas. This is maybe 10 years ago or so, something like that. And the story, that the word that kept sneaking out was FEMA was gathering people and then killing them. And I thought, what? That just could not be true. Well, but it got my antenna up as to what's going on with FEMA. What is their problem? Why would people say that? There must have been people pretending to be FEMA. That was my conclusion. But then I kept hearing about other situations in another part of the country where FEMA came in and they were not helpful. and they did not take action appropriately. And I thought, what the heck? Okay, what's wrong with that? Something I probably didn't hear the story correctly or not enough of it. And then, more and more. What is the moral of the story? It's to be aware of who's on what side, who's working for what, who's wanting to, see us get free and who's not, because that's what it's coming down to. Free to be, free to speak, free to live the way we would like to live, free to have the right to defend ourselves, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, all of the things that we left Europe in order to get, and free especially to govern ourselves. That is where we're going, and that I find very exciting. Yes, it's messy, but anytime you have a people, we'll say it that way, who stand up and say, "No, we don't need your system. We don't want your king. We don't need your queen. We will govern ourselves." They need to be ready to fight sometimes, and I do see some fighting. And if we win, when we win, on the other side of that fighting, some of the help that we will have had will be from Mother Nature. Some of it will be from refusing to give up or back down. Some of it will be from some unlikely places, such as ETs, and the rest will, it'll be just luck, maybe even dumb luck, but we'll make it. So we have a lot to look forward to. But the main thing, the main message is people know who's on what side, because right now the time of choosing sides is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure, and there's some people that are making bad choices.
Yeah. And a lot of people, especially in the new age community or the new earth community, are choosing 4D kinds of consciousness. That's the same choice. No one who's not choosing that. Who still was wanting to stay down there and grovel around in the greed and the really awful stuff. So,
That brings up something that has it kinda hit me with like a ton of bricks in the last few days, and probably as a result of what I've seen happen in North Carolina,
oh yeah.
in that there's no way those people could have been prepared for
No,
what came, and there's going to be situations where you simply cannot prepare for them. They're
yeah,
just gonna happen, and what I finally come to is I'm done worrying about it. I'm done with the stress.
yeah.
I'm done with all of it. All I wanna do is go hiking.
Yeah, do
And
that.
and so it brought me to a place of, part of the torture in this whole process that,
Mhm.
the naughty boys are implementing is the constant stress that we have been under, for decades, but primarily right now from 2020 and the whole,
I know,
COVID thing. I mean, the amount of stress that the people on the planet have been living under is extraordinary.
I know,
And I think what is it's getting crazy is the length of time it's been going on. So we
I know,
had all the stress with COVID and then the whole,
right,
mandates, and now we're into these weather things, and I have just had it. I'm done with it. I'm done with the stress. I'm done with the whole thing. It's
uh,
like I'm just gonna go hiking, and I'm
right,
gonna go kayaking, and I just have disengaged from it
yep,
because that stress is not sustainable for a human,
it's
not
not,
this long. And the
no,
fact is that we're all eternal. We're either
no,
most of us are gonna make it through because
right,
most people are going to be just fine.
no,
But if you're in the middle of that stress, like it's easy to be, it
yeah,
it can really throw you off. So I've just decided I'm done with that.
Good for you. Oh my gosh. And you
Well,
know,
I don't think that there's any other choice, Penny, because if we look at what the next few years are gonna be like, and every single source I go to, you are one of the major ones and a few others, they just said it's gonna be a tough year and a half or so.
yeah, it's people aren't it'll be tough because people aren't used to that kind of stress and that kind of disruption. They aren't used to that amount of change. You know, change was really kind of stomped on for 50, more than 50 years. Everything just stayed the same, just grow up, you know, go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married, have your 2.8 children, buy a nice little house, work your way up, et cetera, et cetera. Travel when you retire. That's not the world we're entering. I think the world that we're entering is so neat. You know, I look at that world and I think, okay, it's coming. It's coming. It's a world in which people are grounded. People are, they care about one another. They talk. They're not always talking on their phone, if we even have phones. Um, they're talking with one another. They're real. They're talking real stuff, not gossip and not the latest movie and that kind of stuff. There are one of the things that I've seen as I look at the future is that the world is a little cleaner, although it takes quite a long time to clean it up. But we start. It's the same kind of process that North Carolina. Somebody said recently that North Carolina was now just frozen in time. Couldn't move forward, couldn't go back, couldn't go sideways. And I thought, oh, wow. But that kind of situation brings massive cleanup and massive rethinking. And so, one of the things that we're moving toward is everybody having their own source of energy because nobody trusts the electric companies anymore. Um, we're having our own food. We grow our own food. We make our own music. The religious thing is still there in a few places, but not very many. There's a whole move toward the consciousness demonstrated and the technology demonstrated by ETs. We're coming into that now. And as long as we keep holding on, it's like they've said to me, don't quit, don't quit. We need to see that you are serious and that you're willing to face what you have to face. And so here we are.
Yeah, and I think that that society you talked about where we were nothing really changed, it's like I was wondering, "Where's my hovercraft?" You know, I was promised a hovercraft when I was a kid, where is it?
I know.
There was really no advancement in technology.
Right.
I mean, they would come, you know, it's like they'd give you more dials on your TV or a little
Right.
different headlights on your car, but it was all just, again, gaslighting.
It
All the
was.
new technology we were paying for was not given to us.
You know,
It's
my
what they're
favorite
used.
thing was, pet peeve, they made the washing machines electronic. And if you buy one of those babies that the electronics is not good, the washer doesn't wash and it doesn't spin and it doesn't rinse. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I've had a couple of repairmen say, you know what, get one of those old fashioned ones where it's a little noisier, but it works. It's mechanical.
Yeah,
So you're right. All of those technology advances were advances for the washing machines and the refrigerators and the cars, not for us.
yeah, for us. And
So,
I think what that static society created was
yeah.
forever high schoolers. Does
Oh,
that
that's
make sense?
perfect.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, 60-year-old with a high school mentality.
Yeah. Right.
And and I'm not being critical, I'm just pointing out the fact that we did not grow. We did not blossom.
Yeah.
It was more of this, running around in a circle kind of thing
I know. I know. And going nowhere the
and
whole
going
time.
nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And thinking that money was going to fix it. More
Yeah.
money.
Thanks for bringing that up because that's my next pet peeve.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was actually kinda looking at The Robes, your book, The Robes, today, and the one of the pet peeves another pet peeve that I've had about our civilization is that our monetary system is like a casino.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, it's where you can put your money. You're gonna buy this stock, you're gonna buy this thing, it's like, can we just have a monetary system that is
Yeah.
fair? And it's not like, "Oh my gosh, you put it in the wrong thing, you lost all your money. Oh, you worked all your life. Oh, you lost all your money. Oh, you bought the right thing, you're now a multimillionaire." It's like you're gambling with
That's
your your resources and your efforts. I'm so tired of that. And this whole thing
right.
about crypto or metals or which crypto and this and that, I'm thinking it's the same mentality with just a different instrument.
Yeah.
There's nothing new about that. Now you're just trying to find the next new thing that's gonna make you a millionaire. It's another casino option.
I know. Oh,
So my question to you, Penny, is how do you see that transition from us having a monetary system that's like a casino and you're playing blackjack to a monetary system that eventually fades away into just a system of
yeah.
being responsible for everyone?
Okay. So, a couple things I would say. First of all, the transition is not real smooth. Okay. We lose quite a few people. What happens in that loss of people because of the financial system going down, they just they just don't know how to respond and they don't have any skills. It's really that's a rough thing to have to look at.
And what does that mean? They don't know, they don't have skills. So they're not able to earn an income anymore or earn a
Right.
living?
The only thing a lot of people know is how to push buttons, operate a pen and pencil, and read something. If they don't do it, if you've never had to um, clean out your sink and remove the trap underneath your sink, how do you do that? If you've never had to replace a toilet, how do you do that? What do you have to be aware of? You know, how long does your pecs have to be? And what's your, distance from the wall to where the opening of the toilet is? Did you buy a toilet that fits that or, whatever? There are so many little details that we don't know. Cooking. How do you, somebody gives you a handful of wheat berries, they're called. What do you do with that? How do you get that into something you can eat? Um, there's so many things that people don't have any skills for. I was just worrying about this today because we have a young couple in our family who got married recently, and they do not know, neither one of them cooks. They're going out to get something or carry outs or pizza every single night. And I'm
And
look
that's the
at
worst food for you. Oh, that
I
restaurant
know,
food. Oh.
I know. So, the skill thing is if you can't do those things, I mean, a toilet, you can go outside and, dig a hole if you need to. But there are skills that you need to have. How do you, keep a wood stove going? How do you stack wood so you can get the wood out of the stack in the middle of winter? And things like that, or don't stack it where it's going, you know, where it's going to have a flood and half your wood pile is soaked in water, 2 feet of water, that kind of thing. So there's so many things that people don't really know how to do. That does worry me. So the
Well, and that's getting back to that forever high schooler.
oh yeah,
Because we don't learn how to live on the planet, which of course was intentional.
I know, I know.
It was
Of
intentional.
course,
So we have a population that lives on a planet that the
yeah.
majority of that population doesn't know how to live on that planet.
I know, and they don't know. how to trade. When you go to the farmer's market and you look at something that some farmer has out there, and it looks kind of wilted, and you're an hour or half hour away from the end of the market, you might say to that farmer, hey, those look like they're in pretty bad shape. I'll take them off your hands for half of what you're asking. What do you say? And he might come back and say, well, give me this much. That kind of trade is not natural for people, and they're not comfortable doing that. They aren't comfortable asking for what they need. They go to the store and buy it, and the store has it 90% of the time. What if the store doesn't have it? How do you, when you take something apart, how do you recognize which of those parts might be useful for something else? And so you organize those, and you keep those all categorized in a place where you can find them. Those are the kinds of skills that I'm talking about. And that's really, we're headed toward a period of time where there's going to be a big interest in getting basic skills. And
And that's an opportunity for a renaissance in
yes,
education.
it is. Absolutely. And yeah, one of the things that I've been rattling on about for I don't know how long now, a couple of years, is this idea of a whole new form of education that I happen to specialize in. Why am I in love with that? Because it develops the whole person. It brings them real hands-on skills. It helps heal them. It builds their self-esteem. It builds their humanity. It moves them toward maturity. And you have 9 and 10-year-olds who are more mature and more skilled and more capable than most adults.
Yes. Yes.
So that, it's coming. I'm setting up a school to do that. But that whole financial thing, we're very close to that coming apart now. And I get a bunch of newsletters from various financial people, and they're all reporting, whoa, the billionaires are dumping banking stocks left and right, and lots of banking stocks. And they're dumping, they're getting out of cash, and they're doing this, and I'm looking at all that going, uh-oh. It's very close now. They typically do that within a few weeks of something going down.
Yeah. Because they know. That brings up for me, I was watching Jay Weidner. He was interviewing a gentleman that's very familiar with the yugas. And the conclusion that Jay and this gentleman, who I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but it's over on Jay's channel, Reality Check,
Okay.
is that because of the cycles of the yugas, that humanity goes into these different
Oh,
cycles. Jay's position was that, and he calls them the archons, we call them the
yeah,
naughty boys, whoever,
right.
is that the archons literally can exist in the environment where we're heading into.
That's
In
right.
other words, the vibration on the planet or the energy on the planet, they can't do it. It's like it's too freaking happy for them.
Uh-huh.
What Jay said, and who knows, everybody's got an opinion, he has one. Jay
Yeah.
said, "If you can stay alive for the next 8 to 10 years,
Yeah.
you may very well live for another 100."
Yeah. That's right.
Because of the new technology, healing
Yes.
technologies, particularly frequency healing that
Yep.
we're gonna get from our relatives up
Yep.
there. What do you say about that? What is your opinion
Right.
about that?
He's right. The things that I know we are coming to, the things that are just going to boggle us, we're going to go, OMG, I want some of that. We're coming to that, and we will have earned it if we can stay alive and not be bitter, not be angry at what has happened, but a little more philosophical. Yeah, the system had to come down because it was so corrupt. There's no way to fix it. And certainly the election is not going to fix anything. And that just really breaks my heart. It's like watching the end of something that was so beautiful, 50 years ago. But when I look at the beauty of what's coming, how clean the planet is, how clean the energy is, how healthy the people are, how interesting the houses are, how different, how amazing the technology for healing is, the food. Oh my God, just if all we had was that kind of food that I know, that I've seen, that I've had, that would be enough for me right there, because that food does everything. The people of the future, the world of the future, everybody is bright and cheerful. Not everybody, but like 90%. Right now, I don't know if we could say that even 60% are happy or trusting
Well,
or,
why would they be? I mean, we've been terrorized for decades,
yeah,
literally terrorized.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was looking at a poll today that 80% of the people say something's wrong. The country is going in the wrong direction. I'm like, oh, wow, 80%, that's a lot of people. That's a huge majority that aren't buying where the naughty boys are trying to take us.
Yeah,
Um,
and it seems like it's that how did it break down? Well, really slow at first, and then all of a sudden it just,
yeah,
like
yep.
all at once. And I feel like we're teetering on that accelerated all at once
Mhm. Yeah, we
process.
are.
And I think that we're gonna go through a whole lot of efforts from the naughty boys to
Yep.
eliminate us.
Well,
And
yeah, they're trying, but, one of the things, every so often I think, "Oh my god, just stop talking about all of the bad stuff that they have been doing and that is coming," and then I think, "Absolutely not." Make sure that people know, because that is what stops the naughty boys, and they have to come up with another plan. And I was looking at that when I was working on the look-see last week. It was that, they are at a point now where they're, "Well, we can't do that because they too many people are watching, and we can't do this because too many people are."
good.
Yeah, and so people, "Oh, you're just talking about doom and gloom." I'm like, "Yeah, it's looking pretty gloomy out there." But that is what keeps the cabal from being able to pull off their crap, because everybody's awake and aware and worrying, and it is stressful. I have to say it is stressful. There are times when I think, actually, maybe I should meditate again. So, because I don't meditate anymore, because of the way I live is every breath is the meditation. But, all of that conspiracy theory talk is really what makes people aware and gets in the way. They can't pull their stuff off, and it doesn't have the impact when people are aware and they don't react the way the cabal wants them to react, and they don't, it doesn't have the impact. It doesn't have the numbers, and and they are struggling. And I was literally watching them like, "Okay, we can't do this." Like, they're running out of things that they can do, except for the weather problems. They still have a few more tricks
Yeah,
up their sleeve. Yeah. So we need to talk about the awful stuff, you guys, just so that the cabal knows that we know, not because we want to muddle around in the mud and be all stressed out. It is stressful. I agree. But
it is stressful intentionally, and that's why I've decided that they're not gonna get any more of my stress.
yeah, You know what that does? Well, you know what that contributes? That like oozes out from you in every direction as a sort of a normal frequency, and people relax. They relax
Mhm.
around you and they deal with the ordinary things. Okay, it's time to feed the cat, or it's time to walk the dog, or it's time to go get groceries, or clean the kitchen, or whatever.
You know
Pay
what I've noticed, Penny, and, I'm in a unique position because I've got another YouTube channel that's kinda big, and
Uh-huh.
so I get feedback. I get continual feedback from my viewers over there. So I have an opportunity, and I don't talk about this kind of stuff over there. It is more everyday stuff, you
Yep.
know? Um, and so I have an opportunity to get feedback
Yeah,
that is not filtered through this conspiracy lens or whatever.
I
And
know.
I've noticed 2 things. First of all, I've noticed that people are on edge, and
Oh,
they feel angry, and they feel uncomfortable, and they're gonna get mad at somebody that's not causing the problem because they're just mad.
yeah,
That for me is a good indication because it's bubbling up in them. In other words, they're catching on that something funky's going on. Maybe they're picking on me or someone else, but that's not the important
right.
thing. The important thing is that they're feeling their feelings.
Yep.
It's bubbling up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then the second thing, the second group of people is people all of a sudden they just don't wanna do what they don't wanna do anymore. They just wanna do fun
Oh, I
things.
love that.
And I have girlfriends who are big pickleball players. Both
Uh,
of them still love pickleball. They have lost their competitive interest in it. Like, they could care less if they win or lose. They just want to play pickleball.
there you go.
And so what I'm seeing is that people are, without even knowing it,
Yeah,
responding to what's going on.
right.
There are those that are early in the stage and they're just
Yeah,
bitter and pissy, but they don't realize who they need to be bitter and pissy at. And then the other group is like, I'm just not going to do that stuff that I don't like to do anymore. I'm going to do this really fun thing over there and I'll talk to you guys later.
oh, I love that. Yeah,
Which to me is like, w you've hit the wall of this whole stress, freak out, scare the herd
yep,
kind of thing, and it's like, "No, I'm gonna start doing the things in my life that I love doing."
right, right, and that when you operate from the heart like that, you open the door to relationships with others, ETs, with the Godhead, with other beings who there's all sorts of other beings out there, people. Lots of other.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And when you don't listen within, and they can't come and stand beside you and get your attention, and talk right to your face. So it has to be telepathic. And when you're not listening within, you missing all of that. When you decide I'm just going to do what I love to do and you work from the heart, you're quieter. And so more messages come in. And the more messages come in, the more information you have, the more intuition works. And so then you begin to notice, hey, I saw that, I knew that, I felt that, et cetera, et cetera. And intuition grows. And that it kind of predisposes you for telepathy and clairvoyance and all of those, the next level of skills. So beyond, people think we have vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. There are 26 senses. So vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch are only the first 5. The rest are waiting to be used, and we don't pay any attention to them. So,
And now it's time. Okay, I wanna finish up with something, and I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, but I'm gonna run it by you anyway.
okay.
Because we need help here
Yeah,
on this planet, what can those of us who are here tonight, those watching, all of us, what can we do? What can you guide us to do so that we let whoever's out there know we need help? Come
yep,
on in. bring it on. We'll
Yeah.
support you. We're here for you. How can we send a message out to make that clear? And will it make an impact?
Yes, it does. Okay, so you have to get quiet, real quiet within. Once you get really quiet within, then you have to have some imagination. You don't have to be visual. Some people are not visual, they're primarily auditory or kinesthetic. Okay. But once you get really quiet, whatever your favorite sense channel is, whether it's visualizing something or imagining a conversation or just having this feeling of being connected or being somewhere and doing something, just imagine that you are turning yourself into your mind into this giant megaphone or billboard, and you are putting out a message that says, I would really appreciate any help you can give us. We're holding our own. We can't go any further without help. And thanking you in advance. That's it. That's all you need to do. Do that a couple times a day. The message just keeps going out there. And the people that are watching and assessing, are they ready? It's not quite the right time yet. Okay. There has to be more confusion. Um, so we're going to get to a period of time where there's so many things happening, it's just going to be mass confusion. But that's okay. In the midst of that confusion, get real quiet, take some deep breaths, and just watch and listen and put your message out there again and say thank you for the help. Oh my God, thank you.
So we can start this now and
Yes,
continue it. Okay.
yes.
And it is going to have an impact because I know there's going to be some people that say, well, what good is that going to do?
It does because people, we are not trained to be telepathic, but everybody else is. Everybody else out there is primarily telepathic. So just know that imagine you're connecting to somebody from somewhere else and having a conversation. Tell them what you feel and what you want. And don't be shy about what you want. Be honest. And don't be groveling either. There's this perfect balance between just standing there and being real is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So, and say thank you frequently. So, and then the other thing in your relationships with the people here that are on the planet, um, pick a day and just try to, I don't know, be a saint that day or be a good person that day. Pick another day and be sassy that day and practice being real to find out where's your real balance. And those who are observing us and all of our interactions, they're going to see that and they're going to recognize that you're waking up enough to take charge of your relationships and how you present yourself. They love that. That's very, very powerful. So they will say, if you can't make it happen here, you're not going to be able to make it happen anywhere else.
Yeah. They're not going to let you play in their
That's right.
playground.
That's right. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Penny. Perfectly, beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you to everybody out there that's listening. This is a very interesting time. It is going to get a little intense here over the next 6 months, but that's okay. We want to see the corruption end. We want to see the children be safe.
Yeah.
We want everything we want. Okay.
We want a system that works for the
And
betterment of all of us. Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Penny, thank you so much for all the work you do and
Oh,
for being so generous with your time. I know this has been a long assignment for you
yeah.
here
This is
on
a
Earth.
lifetime. That's a lifetime of work. But if the planet ends up not under the control of those naughty boys, it's worth it. It's worth
It's worth
it.
it.
Every single minute is worth it.
Yeah. And we can look back and say, "Wow, that was a wild ride."
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. We're so glad you could join us, and we will be back next month after the
Yeah.
election,
Ooh.
and let's all take notes on all the goofy things that happen between
Right.
now and then,
Yeah.
and really try 2, 3 times a day to reach out to
Yeah.
those friends that want to help us and connect with that because it really, really does matter.
Yeah. It does. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. More than you can even imagine.
and I love that. That's so much potential right there.
It is. Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're coming to a new world.
Yeah,
Eh,
we want you there.
yes. We don't
Yeah.
wanna be there all by ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Alright, everyone, thanks for joining us. You got
Yeah.
the button
Thank you
there?
so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Let's see.